I'm sure anyone who watched the Pokemon anime growing up had fond memories of the movies. They were self-contained, fun little adventures with Ash and whichever friends he brought onto Death's Door alongside him. But how good were they really? Well, I watched all 25 of them, spanning across almost every generation, to answer that very question. And yeah, this video was inspired by Ted Niven's Barbie video, which is an amazing video, and you should watch it if you haven't, after you're done watching this one, of course. Hey, I'm just gonna pause real quick. I'm recording this like 3 months in the future, so basically this video ended up being a lot longer than I wanted it to be. So for my own sanity, I'm splitting it up into 3 different parts. These parts will be for the different eras that I'm going to be talking about. Me is about to talk about that in a second, so I'll finish up quick. Yeah, so this is part 1 of 3. Parts 2 and 3 will be out when I finish them. So yeah, enjoy the video. So, similar to his video, I'm splitting the movies into my personally curated and officially recognized eras of Pokemon theatrical releases and talking in length about the worst and best from each one. First, the classic era, which took place from 1996 to 2006, based on the US release dates. The golden era, spanning from 2007 to 2016, not necessarily because the quality of these movies happen to be better, but these are what I grew up watching, so I'm biased. And the post-Kalos era, which started in 2017 and goes to present day, where they just did whatever they wanted. This will make covering the movies I want to talk about much easier, so we can just speed through the ones that weren't all that special. And how will I be figuring out which ones to focus on? Well, I'll be giving each movie a grade out of 20 based on 4 categories. Story. How interesting/unique was the story? Did I get invested, or could I not even understand a single thing that was happening? Battles. How cool were the battles? Pretty simple category. It's a Pokemon movie, so it's gotta have cool battles. It's the law. Look it up. Enjoyment. How much did I enjoy the movie? Was I smiling through it all, or glancing at the clock waiting for the torture to end? And finally, Ash's mortality. If you've seen a few Pokemon movies, you already know that Ash is a little bit, how do you say it, insane? There's at least one moment in almost every movie where he risks his life for some reason, or just straight up dies. So that's what this category is for. The closer to death he is, the higher the score. Now, you might be thinking, so in order for a Pokemon movie to be perfect, Ash has to die? Yes. Also, if the movie has a banger intro song, it gets a bonus point. So, theoretically, the best of these movies can get up to a 21 out of 20. But we'll have to wait and see if any of them can reach that level of critical acclaim. With all that out of the way, let's get into the first movie on the list, which... oh, Pokemon the first movie, how fitting. Pokemon the first movie, or Mewtwo Strikes Back as might be better known, is where it all began. Basically, a group of scientists get hired by Giovanni, the leader of Team Rocket, to create a Pokemon super weapon through cloning. But the laws of nature don't like that, so it blows up in their face. This creates Mewtwo, who goes on a bit of a tantrum and builds a sick-as-hell villain lair on a secluded island where he invites strong trainers to come and fight him or whatever. He hates humans and wants to kill them all, but Ash is like, what if I killed myself right in front of you? And he's like really chill now. Also, Mew is the cutest thing ever. Mewtwo's whole story is actually super f***ed up and really well written, and the story that follows is pretty fun, so 4 out of 5 for that. It's a perfect movie for a TV show, though it does feel like an extended episode sometimes. The battles were alright. Ash's Charizard versus the clone Charizard was definitely the highlight, but it totally slipped my mind that they got the Backstreet Boys feature for the clones fighting scene, so that took me out a bit. 3 out of 5. This was such a fun watch though, no question. Like, I'll always love this movie until the day I die, so if I'm ever not enjoying this movie, you have permission to shoot me dead. 5 out of 5. And Ash literally dies for a few minutes, so that's an easy 5 for the mortality rating. Oh, and it had a great intro, so bonus point for that. Mewtwo Strikes Back gets a strong 18 out of 20. This one was just as great as I remember it being. I also learned from some of my friends that the first 10 minutes of Mewtwo's backstory wasn't included as part of the full movie's runtime in some home releases, instead being a special feature, specifically on the English DVDs, which is pretty interesting. I guess a little girl clone and multiple Pokemon's implied death was a little too much, so they had to hide it behind the silly DVD menu. Anyways, next up we have Pokemon the Movie 2000, The Power of One. Most of the story details are a bit foggy, but I remember having fond memories of this movie. And I love Lugia, so it's gotta be amazing, right? What are you doing? You're not doing anything!
Pikachu!
I thought you was gonna say Pikachu!
Misty, you've done literally nothing this whole movie. Okay, I don't know if I just wasn't paying attention or something, but man, This movie did not hit as hard as I remember it. There's this evil collector guy, and his name is Lawrence III. He's trying to capture all 3 legendary Kanto birds so he can summon Lugia in order to catch him, I think. I can kind of relate to him in a way. Ash and the gang get involved in the whole debacle through landing on a random island, which has some festival going on related to the birds. The chosen one, which is Ash, has to go collect the island balls and bring them to a central point where this girl, Melody, plays her flute or something. Hijinks ensue, birds fight a lot, Ash gets all the balls, Baja Blast fills the oceans, and the world is saved. And there's a talking Slowking that honestly is chill as hell. I do respect what they tried to go for with this movie. Having this festival related to the birds and the culture surrounding it is honestly a really cool idea. But I just kept getting confused on what was up with these fucking birds. Like, one second they were chill and breaking each other out of prison, then they were fighting to the death like they didn't just take down a huge-ass industrial ship together 10 minutes ago. I don't know, maybe I'm just stupid, but it felt really weird to me. And it was implied that there were previous chosen ones. Does this world-ending threat happen at every festival? And Ash's name is in the prophecy, which is why he was the chosen one. So was every chosen one named Ash, or is there a different prophecy every time? 3 out of 5. There was really only one battle in this movie, and that was the birds screaming and shooting their elemental attacks for about 40 minutes, which got a little old pretty quick, so 2 out of 5. It felt like this could have been a lot shorter. There was some noticeable padding for time, and it really dragged on during the climax, which killed some of the enjoyment for me. 2 out of 5. Ash almost drowned and jumped in front of a few attacks, but nothing too crazy for his standards, so 3 out of 5 for his mortality. But it did have a really good intro song, so add a bonus point for that. Overall, Pokémon the Movie 2000 gets an 11 out of 20. Honestly, I didn't hate this one. It was just very middle of the road and filled with choices that confused me. It's really hard to follow up after the first movie, so I can't blame it for being a little lacking. On to the next though. My confidence in these movies has dropped a bit, but who knows? There's still 22 left, so anything can happen. While the previous ones were fun, this felt like an actual movie. The story was engaging, the new characters felt important, there were stakes, and it was goddamn beautiful. The visuals for the first 2 movies were great, but Spell of the Unknown is like a fine arts painting in every scene. It's super impressive. The story goes as this. There's a Pokemon researcher named Spencer Hale who's trying to figure out the deal with these funky letters. Turns out the funky letters are alive and they pull him into their funky letter dimension. Not good. Oh, and he's a father too, so extra not good. Now, his daughter Molly is left all alone with the Scrabble pieces, but she knocks them all over like a fool. She gets a wish though, so she asks for her father back, and the funky letters spawn an Entei. See, before he disappeared, Spencer would read Molly a story every night that featured Entei. And he would also say that he was Entei, which is like, obviously a lie. I mean, come on dude, you're not fooling anyone except for the 5-year-old girl. Get real. But yeah, she associates Entei with her dad, so that's why he's here now. Molly says she wants a whole family, so she asks for her mom, and Entei runs off to commit a first-degree felony. Cut to Ash and the gang enjoying some time with their Pokemon, and oh, Ash's mom is here too. Hey! Oh shit! Entei straight up kidnaps Ash's mom and puts her in a trance so she believes that she's Molly's mom instead. So now they gotta rescue her. I think now's a good time to mention that Team Rocket is in every single one of these movies, and they do absolutely nothing, but we love them for that anyways. Sometimes they do small things for the plot, but there are some movies where they are literally just in the area and make jokes, and it's the best. I love it. Back to Molly, and similar from U2 in the first movie, she's got this sick as hell villain lair now. She and Ash's mom are watching the news when Ash shows up and snaps her out of the trance, but she plays it off because Molly's too stupid to notice. What an idiot. The group enters the castle and is met with an older version of Molly. She wanted to be a Pokemon trainer, so it came true in a way. This girl isn't actually Molly, it's just how she imagines herself to be when she's old enough to be a trainer. Brock battles her, making some questionable comments.
Figures a cute Pokemon trainer'd have a cute Pokemon.
And the others move on. Walking up these stairs that gotta be some sort of OSHA violation, they run into another Molly and Misty's up next, leaving Ash to continue alone. Also, Meowth says a line that implies that he's aware that this is all a movie.
Do you think we're gonna get a bigger part in the next movie?
What are the implications of this? What does this freaky cat know that we don't? Moving on, Ash makes it to Molly's room and she finds out that she's adopted. It's a lot to drop on a vulnerable kid like this, so she understandably loses her temper a bit. Ash fights Entei and gets bodied in an absolutely beautiful set piece. And then one of the greatest scenes in cinema history took place right in front of my eyes. Early in the movie, they set up Ash's Charizard sensing that something's wrong. Later, as Ash is about to be impaled by huge-ass crystals, He flies in and saves him in the coolest way possible. I feel like I de-aged back to a toddler during this scene. I was yelping and clapping my hands like a dang baboon. What follows is a pretty lengthy but cool as hell battle between Ash's Charizard and Entei. You ever watch something and feel like that sliver of childlike wonder finally returns to you after so long? God, just take me back. Sadly, Charizard loses, but Molly stops Entei before he can blow his brains out. He gets brought back to reality, and everything's cool now. Shit, I forgot about the funky letters. The Unknown go a little crazy and seal everyone in the castle, leaving them to try and fight back. But Entei, being the realest one ever, sacrifices himself and forces the Unknown back to their funky letter dimension. And Spencer returns at the end, so Molly is back to the same amount of parents she had at the start. Good for her. It's just such a great movie, man. The main story isn't really about Ash, but having his mom be held captive is a great way to get him and the others involved in a way that feels natural. And the entire third act was just absolute peak. Genuine peak. Easy 5 out of 5 for the story. It was very heartwarming and pretty sad at times. Watching a little girl attempt to cope with her grief over her possibly dead parents was not what I expected to happen in a Pokemon movie, but here we are. It was good. Also, Entei is the realest Pokemon ever. Like, I need a guy like that in my life. As I said a little bit ago, the battles in this movie were great too. And it wasn't just Ash getting the cool battles in this movie either. We actually remembered Misty and Brock this time around. Misty specifically had a super creative scuffle underwater that was very fun to watch, and any battle with Entei was just amazing. 5 out of 5. As for enjoyment, come on, you can guess, it's a 5 out of 5 again. Big shocker, I know. It's just really hard to put into words how much I enjoyed this film, so I won't. Ash's mortality gets a 4 out of 5. Would have gotten a perfect score if some orange lizard didn't come save him from getting ripped to shreds by crystals, but that's neither here nor there. At least he lives to see another day. For now. Only 3 movies in, and we got our first 20 out of 20. This is by far the best of the movies in this era. Only 1 point off the perfection score, but everything about this movie was so great, I'd be willing to give it that point just because. They cooked with this one. You know, maybe my loss in confidence was misguided. This just proves I shouldn't doubt them. I'm sorry, Mr. Pokemon. I'll never say anything hurtful ever again. I promise. Anyways, next up is Pokemon Forever, so let's keep this train going.
And the past can travel through time as well, and so they've all.
I feel nothing. This one was a stinker. The movie starts with this basic looking kid walking through a forest. He gets stopped by this green haired girl who gives him this honestly really rancid piece of bread and tells him about some forest superstition bullshit. Basic kid doesn't listen and goes in anyway, but he runs into Celebi, who is being chased by a Pokemon hunter. He helps the onion fairy out, which leads to it tweaking and sending him into the future. We're then introduced to the villain of the movie, and I'd like you to guess what this guy's name is. You'd think it'd be something like Razor or like Claw. I don't know, something cool, but no, it's Iron Mask Marauder. It's got these Pokeballs called Dark Balls that are basically like Master Balls, but they turn the Pokemon evil. Name could use a little more work, but I respect the simplicity. His plan is to catch Celebi with one and turn evil so he can rule the world or some junk. I don't know. Throughout this entire movie, one thing I and my friends noticed was the increased use of 3D models compared to the last movies. This was the early 2000s, so that technology was starting to become more prevalent in animated media. It helped speed up the production process and made some pretty cool 3D environment scenes possible, but oh man, did it still look bad. Just wait, because it's gonna get much worse. So Ash and the gang show up, as always, and Suicune is just kind of chilling nearby, kind of weird. They arrive in this forest town called Arborville, and the green-haired girl from earlier is here, except she's like super old now. It's about the same superstition, and Ash does not give a rat's ass, so he runs off. The whole dang forest starts to glow because Celebi actually came to this time period and left this boy for dead against the harsh reality of nature. They grab him and run back into town, where he wakes up and Ash instantly tries to scrap with this kid. We learn his name is Sam, and he's from 40 years in the past. He reunites with Celebi, and they just kind of chill for a while. Up until this point, I was really vibing with this movie. Big fan of Celebi, so that helps. And there was a really cool scene with this lake that heals it, and then they just swim and fly around and shit. Just a real good time, if you ask me. Ash and Sam also have this really sweet moment where they connect about their different time periods. But Sam pulls out that rancid-ass bread, which I feel like you guys shouldn't be eating. I don't know. If y'all get food poisoning, just know I told you so. And there's a very pretty scene where a bunch of Metapod evolve and fly away while the sun rises. The vibes were just right with this one. Know what I mean? Then the second half of the movie starts. Hope you didn't forget about the Iron Mask Marauder, cause he's back! He fights off the main group and gets to Celebi, catching it in one of his dark balls and turning Celebi evil. I just want to know, who made these things? Are they crazy powerful or is Celebi just crazy weak? I feel like a mythical Pokemon shouldn't be able to be turned this easily by whatever power this dude has. I mean, look at him. Personally, If it was me getting caught in a dark ball, I just wouldn't let it happen, period. Anyways, Celebi is evil now and transforms into one of the biggest eyesores I have ever had to look at for 13 whole minutes. I can't bash it too bad, since this was the early 2000s, like I said before, but oh my god, who thought it was a good idea for the climax of the movie to take place around this fucking thing? Anytime it showed up on screen, I was just totally taken out of it. Now, that's most likely because I'm not a kid in the 2000s watching this movie, so I definitely have different standards, but still, holy shit. Yeah,
Oh, there it is in the background.
God, I almost didn't notice it. It blends in so well. My notes for this section are basically non-existent because all I could focus on was this thing. Evil Celebi starts ripping up the forest and just making everyone's days super difficult. Not cool, but it's fine because Suicune finally shows up to do something. It helps Brock take out this evil Tyranitar, and Onyx gets a clean home run across the whole lake. Honestly, might be the highlight of the movie for me. It's just hilarious. Ash and Sam break into Evil Celebi's dead grass mech suit and give it a hug. How sweet. Oh, there it goes. They save the day, but Celebi's like super dead. Now, here's what I thought was going to happen. Suicune purifies the lake or whatever, so they place Celebi gently in the water to revive it. And boom, happily ever after. But no, a portal opens up in the sky, and hundreds of other Celebi just come out of it. They sing a little song, and Celebi is revived. Okay, so now the day is saved, right? Oh great, it's the Iron Mask Marauder again. Can someone please get this guy a shorter name? He grabs Celebi and tries to fly away, but Ash being Ash, he grabs onto him and blows up his jetpack. He almost falls to his death, but Celebi saves him, and then Sam is sent back to his original time. The end. The one cool bit about the ending to this movie is that it's basically confirmed that Sam was Professor Oak in the past, which makes a lot of the sweet moments between him and Ash have a lot more meaning to them. But other than that, I just didn't really feel this movie. So, let's grade this thing. The story was a little boring at times, but Sam being Professor Oak with all the time travel shenanigans definitely added to it. So, 3 out of 5. There weren't any crazy battles in this movie, so it gets a low score by default, but Onyx did hit that crazy home run, so 2 out of 5. For how short this movie was, clocking in at about 75 minutes, there were a lot of moments where I just was waiting for it to be over. The whole second half with the evil Celebi and terrifying CG monster really killed it for me, so 2 out of 5. Ash wasn't in too much danger in this one. He took a few tumbles, but nothing too crazy, so 3 out of 5. Pokemon Forever gets a 10 out of 20 on the official Marker Pokemon Movie grading scale, the worst of this era. I'm being a bit harsh, but let me be clear. I don't hate any of these movies. Forever was close, but I can't bring myself to hate a single one. I'm actually lying to you, but we'll get back to that later. They're all Pokemon movies at the end of the day, so they'll always be at the very least charming, even if they're pretty mid. Next up is Pokémon Heroes, so let's get into it. So, Ash kisses a Pokemon in this one. Just thought I'd let you know ahead of time. Rip the band-aid off, you know. This movie is set in Pokemon Venice, where Latios and Latias live and protect it. They once saved the city, so now they're sworn guardians or whatever. Some totally spies-ass girls are trying to find this fancy-looking ball that has some kind of secret power. Turns out, this ball is in the city. How convenient. And Ash and the gang are there too. How convenient again. Ash meets this strange girl who turns out to be Latias. They hang out, Ash starts to get some weird feelings about a Pokemon, and the spy girls steal the fancy ball. They put it into this super weapon that's in a museum for some reason, and it's powered by Latios. So everyone comes to save him. As usual, Ash's first thought is to punch the electrical cage, but it doesn't work. Maybe next time, buddy. Latios is saved, and the super weapon is stopped. Wait, don't touch that! Shit. Cool. Now a biblical tsunami wave is coming straight at the town. But Latios sacrifices his life and dies for real. And then Ash kisses a Pokemon. This movie was actually super fun. I loved the setting, and the race and chase scenes in the water were so cool. I enjoyed the sibling relationship that Latios and Latias had too. It was very heartwarming, and it almost made me cry, so 4 out of 5. Battles are pretty much non-existent in this one, so it's hard to give it a fair score, but the chase scene I mentioned before with the huge Aerodactyl barreling through the city canals was such a fun idea that I'll count it as a battle. 3 out of 5. Enjoyment gets a 5 out of 5 easily. You might be noticing a trend that the enjoyment score is either really low or a perfect score. No in between. Don't worry, the trend will continue. Ash was relatively safe through this one, only being in immediate danger a few times, though the times he was in danger were pretty scary, and he basically died for a few minutes, so 3 out of 5. And finally, the theme song was immaculate for this one, so it gets a bonus point. Pokemon Heroes receives a 16 out of 20. With that, we're out of the Gens 1 and 2 movies and moving into Gen 3. Not quite out of the classic era yet, though. Jirachi Wishmaker was pretty inoffensive. Not perfect, but at least it didn't feel like I wasted 81 minutes of my life. Basically, there's this circus guy named the Great Butler terrible name by the way, brings a carnival to a random desolate area where Ash and the gang also happen to be. Sadly, Misty died off screen, so May and Max were hired as her replacements. Butler has this rock that Jirachi is inside of, and Max becomes its best friend over the course of like an hour or two. I don't know why they gave this rare meteor to a random kid, but whatever. Turns out Butler actually wanted Jirachi's power to revive Groudon because he tried in the past, but was publicly shamed and has never been the same since. His girlfriend Diane isn't having it, so she takes the gang cross country to return where she and Butler found the Jirachi rock. Butler somehow got there before them and set up a whole villain contraption, so he gets his hands on Jirachi and summons Kaiju Groudon, practically killing everything in the vicinity, but they inflate Groudon and sing a really good song to turn Jirachi back into a rock. Speaking of this song, May kept humming it throughout the whole fucking movie, and someone please get this girl some singing lessons, and Brock too. Like I said, this movie was fine, though I did like the relationship between Max and Jirachi. It was very cute, so 4 out of 5. The climax of the movie was pretty much one long battle, and it was alright. The Groudon inflation was a little weird though. 3 out of 5. Enjoyment, as expected, was pretty high at a 4 out of 5. It was just a nice time overall, and Ash barely got in any danger, so 2 out of 5, bringing the final score to 13 out of 20. Now, the next movie was one of my favorites as a kid, not because I remember the intense and impactful story or the expertly crafted characters, but because it's got Rayquaza and Deoxys in it, and I like them a lot because they're super cool, so yeah. The first 15 minutes of this movie are fucking crazy, man. Deoxys comes down from space, and Rayquaza is not happy. They have this crazy ass fight while some kid gets Lion Kinged so hard that he gets irreversible trauma for the rest of his life. No biggie. Rayquaza eventually comes out on top, and Deoxys is defeated. Or is it? Fast forward some years, and Ash and the gang arrive in La Rue City, and guess who's back? Though, before Deoxys arrives, Ash meets the traumatized kid whose name is Troy. He's got a few screws loose and has an imaginary friend that everyone around him just agrees to pretend is real out of pity. The city goes on lockdown for the usual alien invasion, but the main cast gets stuck inside and is forced into an apocalyptic scenario. There's a force field around the city, and for some reason it won't deactivate, so they're trapped for the foreseeable future. Rayquaza, though, is not happy, again. He breaks through the force field, and there's this sick-as-hell city fight between him and Deoxys. Turns out, the reason Deoxys is attacking the city is to find its friend, which it lost during its original battle with Rayquaza. And double turns out, its friend was Troy's imaginary friend the whole time. Chill Deoxys, as I've dubbed it, is born and meets with the original one so they kiss or something. Then the citywide security system goes AWOL and starts destroying everything. I don't know. Troy overcomes his trauma, and Rayquaza learns to stop being racist, so pretty solid messages all around. I really enjoyed the setting and Troy's whole character arc. Their connection to the battle between Deoxys and Rayquaza was super cool too. 4 out of 5. I need anyone watching this video to understand that there is one trope that I love more than anything in this world. You take two extremely powerful creatures or entities, put them in a big city, and let them go at it. It's just peak. 5 out of 5. Just like the last movie, enjoyment was a solid 4 out of 5. The whole security going crazy bit was a little odd near the end, but not enough to kill the vibe. Finally, Ash was fairly safe, so nothing too crazy happened. 3 out of 5, pretty standard. Destiny Deoxys gets a 16 out of 20. This one was fun. Like, I feel like I could say that about most of these, but it'd still be true no matter what. We got 2 more movies in the classic era left, so let's blast through them real quick. I've never been to a Renaissance fair, so I don't know if this is normal, but do you usually have to go on a world-saving quest as a part of the overall experience? No? Man, what's the fucking point then? So this movie is basically Pokemon Fire Emblem, but no, not that one. In the past, there was a hero named Sir Aaron who locked away his partner Lucario to protect him from a war. Now, in the present, Ash wins a battle at this Ren fair, so he gets to LARP as the Aura Guardian for the day. When Aaron sealed away Lucario, he went to this big tree and solved climate change with the help of Mew. But it's finally wearing off, so Ash and the gang, and Lucario, have to go to the tree and figure it out. And while this is happening, Pikachu and Meowth practically get kidnapped by Mew, so they're all chilling at the big tree too. The group runs into some Reggies. They explore Beta Area 0, Ash reunites with Pikachu, and then these weird red Pokemon things consume and kill everyone. Like, I had to look it up while watching. These are basically white blood cells that fight and kill anything unknown to the tree, so everyone who got ate up was 100% not living. Oh, sorry, did I forget to mention that this tree is about to self-destruct? Yeah, so Lucario does the same thing Aaron did and sacrifices himself to stop the tree from becoming a nuke, and the day is saved. They really gotta stop killing these Pokemon, man. I can't fucking take it anymore. This movie was super engaging throughout the whole thing. Lucario and Aaron's story was super tragic, and seeing how Lucario coped with the world around him changing was really cool and really sad at the same time. And him going out the same way Aaron did at the end, it was great. Can't even joke about it. It's a 5 out of 5. But the battles, there weren't really any except for the battle in the intro. They ran from the Reggies for a bit, but I'd be hard pressed to call those battles, so 3 out of 5. Slap another 5 out of 5 on that enjoyment scale. I don't care if it's predictable, it's the truth. I'll be damned if you try to take away my God-given right to enjoy a movie made for children. Can a grown man not have a good time while watching my childhood hero be swallowed by a floating lava creature? Oh, and 5 out of 5 for that, by the way. He was like super dead. Also, peak theme song, best in the series, bonus point. Lucario and the Mystery of Mew gets a 19 out of 20. It was a banger, that's all I gotta say. Now, time for the final movie of the classic era, Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea. This one was alright. We're introduced to possibly the best Pokemon character ever, Jack Walker, who's a Pokemon Ranger. He steals this egg from some pirates and fucks off. But the egg turns out to be a Manaphy egg, and it imprints on May, who was taking care of the egg while they were being chased by the pirate guy named Phantom. They gotta return Manaphy to the underwater sea temple because he's the prince of the sea. I doubt it. But it only shows up during an eclipse. May gets super attached to Manaphy over the course of the journey there, so we all know what's gonna happen next. After arriving at the temple, everything goes wrong and it starts to flood. This whole section where the thing is sinking made me genuinely stressed, like I was in the same situation myself, so points for immersion, I guess. Ash tries to save the day, but drowns. Just kidding. He gets an air bubble from the power of friendship and then goes Super Saiyan, which was like, alright, cool, but also, what the hell, man? Then Kyogre shows up and kills the pirate guy, so Manaphy leaves to go be Prince or whatever. Oh, and everyone's Super Saiyan now. Not a bad movie, but it did drag at some points. Jack Walker carried the entire film, if I'm being honest. Anytime he was on screen was an absolute joy, but even his captivating charisma can't save rough pacing. 3 out of 5. Even though Super Saiyan Ash was a little out of nowhere, it did make for a pretty cool final battle, and all the ocean Pokemon fucking up Phantom's ship was pretty funny, so 3 out of 5. Just like the 2 previous ratings, enjoyment was also very middle of the road at a 3 out of 5. Not terrible, but not at the same level of that childlike wonder as the rest, you know? And as for Ash's mortality, he almost drowned, but it wasn't long enough for him to get, like, fully killed, just unconscious. 4 out of 5. Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea gets a 13 out of 20. A pretty lackluster end of the classic era, if you ask me. Thankfully for you, though, and regrettably for me, we still have 16 movies to go over. But I'm gonna save that one for part 2. So, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. It's a little bit different from my first video, but you know, trying out different things, see what I like, see what I don't like, that kind of thing. You know how it is. Hope you enjoyed it anyway, though. Part 2 will be out when it comes out. So, hope to see you there, and have a good one.